morning, y'all. Welcome to the ministry. And today, I've got another word for y'all that the Lord just gave me. I was looking at somebody's video this morning, and I was like 10 minutes into a 35-minute video, and all of a sudden, this just started to download into my spirit. And I'm like, but what are we talking about this for? And he was like, this is what I want you to talk about. So I prayed about it before I came out here, because obviously he wanted me to talk about it. So here I am. The restoration of inheritance upon the man's life. What am I saying? A lot of people are in the headspace of, your God ordained spouse is rich. Your God ordained spouse is already set up. Your God ordained spouse is so on and so forth. Your God ordained spouse, your God ordained spouse, your God ordained spouse. But what if your God ordained spouse needs a bridge? Needs a bridge? What are you talking about? We always hear about the story of Abraham and his wealth. Isaac and the wealth that was attached to him from Abraham. Jacob and the wealth that was attached to him. But what about the underdogs? What about the men that married into families of wealth? Okay. And it's not even so much that they married into families of wealth. It was a bridge for them. What am I talking about? Follow me. I need you to follow me. Because the way the Lord showed it to me, it made perfect sense to me when I was seeing it. And because I'm coming on here right smack dab after he gave it to me, it may not make sense as I'm talking, so I need you to follow me. Okay. When we think about David, where was David when we first met him? Out in the field with some stinky sheep fighting lions and bears, right? But he was anointed to become king. He kills Goliath, and what does he attain for killing Goliath? He attains the marriage where he gets set up as he's being bridged into his kingship. Some of the women need to be the bridge. Okay, let me make it a little bit clearer for you. Remember when Joseph was going through his season? When he met his wife, was he already set up? No. Matter of fact, he crossed her path the way that I've seen it. If you look at the cartoon version that Disney made, he crossed her path because remember, she was the daughter of the woman that accused him of raping her, and then he ended up in jail for 3 years. He was known to be the slave boy that was a servant in their castle. He ended up becoming the prime minister. Is it prime minister? I believe it's a prime minister. And when he became that prime minister, he got to marry her, which means he married into her family's wealth, which positioned him in the seat, which he was given the prime ministership, but he had to get there first He didn't have the money when he got there. Oh God, it's making this longer than I thought it was going to be, because now he just showed me Aladdin. I was like, oh my goodness. But we gonna follow the steps and we gonna go through this, because what it is if you look at these stories, these men didn't have anything as it appeared when you first saw them, okay? They didn't have nothing. Now, what was happening for Joseph is he was being bridged to wealth that would potentially reconnect him to his family and then restore the wealth that was lost in the process. Because there was going to come a time where his family, Jacob and the children, all of his siblings, were going to need that financial bridge later on. But he had to go away from his wealth and come back to it. Even if you go forth and you look at the story of Moses. Moses was in a family, raised in a family of wealth, went into poverty, married his wife, then had to go back to the place in which he came from in order to lead the Israelites out of the bondage of that city. But he wasn't rich in that when he came there. He hadn't wealthily gained a bunch of riches and was as plentiful as Pharaoh. He was not. He was living well below that. It doesn't mean that he wasn't happy where he was. It's just that he wasn't living that uber rich lifestyle. He was satisfied where he was. When God told him that he had to go back, he was like, excuse me? Why am I saying this? God is giving me this because a lot of ministers saying, oh, your husband needs to have already acquired wealth. Oh, your husband needs to... There are some women, yes, your husband has acquired wealth. But I'm going to tell you this. From something I saw from one of the ministers that I follow, what happened to her spouse when she married him. When she got married, she married a man that worked at Mercedes-Benz. Now, if you are a woman that hasn't had that much money, and you know that your husband has the top position at Mercedes-Benz as one of the technical, architectural sales people at that place, you're like, oh, I'm marrying into money. She brought this up the other day, and I decided I wanted to bring this up too. The day that she married her husband, the Lord had told him to leave that job. The day he went in to put in his resignation, they offered him double the salary in which he already had to stay on for another, I don't know how much time. And he turned it down. He had to turn the car in. He had to turn the computer in. He had to turn everything in. He ain't had nothing. She said that the day they got married, he was literally sitting there saying, I don't know how I'm going to tell her I have nothing. I'm sorry, I don't hear you guys. What are you saying? Some of these men need you to be their bridge. You're going to be their bridge, because what's going to happen is some of these men, I was thinking about my God ordained spouse, I'm like, Lord, are you about to do something like that with him? I'm like, oh my goodness. Some of these men are in positions right now where they look like they in the most glorified, rich, well-offest position that they could be in to the naked eye. But some of them are in financial constraints. Some of them the Lord has put them in a corner, and they're going to have to release something when they take you on as their spouse. And in them releasing something, it's going to be a domino effect. I remember I was watching Dr. Alex. I forget what her last name is, but her name's Dr. Alexis is her name. That's what it is. I actually follow her group on Facebook, and I didn't realize it until I saw the photograph from one of her videos. It was the same photograph in the Facebook group that I follow. I was like, oh, I guess that was meant to be. But when she got married to her husband, the Lord told her that she was going to be getting married. And the Lord told her what type of man that she was going to marry. And she was like, oh, okay, blah, 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 blah. But when she got married, she had just gotten her graduate's degree, master's level degree into her doctorate. But she ended up meeting the guy. But when she married him, he didn't have everything that the Lord told her that he was going to have. This reminds me of something that one of the young women that I follow, Remnant Rising, did a video recently where she was talking about it's called God sees your God-ordained spouse as who they're meant to be. Okay? Sometimes what the Lord will do is he'll show you what he wants you to do with this person, but there's a huge gap between where they are and where y'all gonna be together. Sometimes you're sitting there thinking to yourself, oh, we gonna do this immediately when we get together. Okay, I gotta be ready for this. And God's like, no. Some of these men that you're preparing to marry, cultural shock, they are going to potentially have the money, and what God's going to have them do is set everything up that if they follow his direction, it's going to cover them for 3 to 4 years. But they're not going to have to pay rent, they ain't going to have to pay whatever, they ain't going to have to pay whatever it is. But what's going to happen in that 3 to 4 years is he's going to break them down. Meaning everything else that they thought was going to need to be secure in their life, meaning their career, the things that they had put their hands to, all of this kind of stuff, he's going to be siphoning that stuff out. Because everything that they built that was not from him, gone. It's going to be gone. But he's going to secure their stability with their family, with their wife, with the children that they're going to have. But he's going to be snatching all that other stuff away. So that him and the wife can build together what it was that the Lord needs them to build. Who was it? It's another young woman. It's a woman that I heard her story on Clubhouse, in a Clubhouse chat. If I can find it, what I'll do is I'll go back in the Clubhouse, get the link. Prayerfully, if y'all got Clubhouse, y'all can click on the link and go in and listen to the story in which she told from that conversation. She was telling her story of when she first got married to her husband. They were stable before the marriage, but the Lord started to siphon and take away the things that together they had separately, in order for them only leaving the things that he wanted them to have together, to build on together. God gave me a vision in relation to my God-ordained spouse, and I'm not going to share it, but he gave me a vision of something that he was going to do that could potentially be a domino effect. And I'm just going to leave that be as it is, but I know what the Lord is showing me that we're going to do at a latter date. So I'm like, okay, whatever it is that is your desire, Lord, let your will be done. Just prepare him for that. So I'm pretty sure right now the thing that the Lord is having him do is prepare for what he's about to take out from under him. And, but why am I saying this? I'm trying to see how much time I got. Some of these men look like they don't have it. They're not going to look like they have anything. And if they do have it, they're only going to have it momentarily. Meaning, it's going to be enough to get you into the marriage. But then the Lord is going to have you have your season of rest, but y'all going to be building. What was it? I remember I heard the story of Heather Lindsay and her husband. When they first got married, they were both involved in the church already. That's how they met, because they went to 2 different branches of the same church in 2 different states and ended up meeting at a conventional event at one of the locations, and that's how they met in passing. And she said that when they got married, they thought that their life was going to be like, okay, we got this thing set up, okay, good. No. He left his job and started studying for ministerial work. So she was carrying the household while they had to downsize the cars to, I think it was a truck or something like that she had. And they're like, well, we got to go through this season. That was around the time that she had her miscarriage and all that type of stuff. And they were building at the time. But my point for saying that is, he went down before they went up. Sometimes what the Lord is going to do, especially some of these men that are in high power positions, he's got to bring them back to humility. So he's going to bring them back down. He's going to secure your living situation. He's going to secure all of that. And he may even secure your financial inheritance. But there's something that he's going to do in order to bring him back to himself. Now, most of them, they're going through it right now. But he's going to have to let go of his worldly things. I've been strongly inside of the scripture from Mark 8:36 that talks about whomever is willing to lose their life for Christ and gain their life in order to save it for the Gospels. Some of these men are going to have to let go of the lifestyle that they've known for years. And it's not that they're letting it go. It's like, I'm going to tell you what the Lord did with me. At the time I came to the Lord, I was avidly into fashion design. I was a fashion blogger online. I had made my Facebook. You can still find my Facebook page to this day. I had done all of this. But what ended up happening was the Lord said, for a season, I need you to let it go. And it was funny, Stephanie P was talking about this the other day, that what the Lord is going to do is, in some of these cases, He's going to bring the men down in order for Him to restructure with you. But you're going to be a bridge. How so? I'm going to bring up this film. Don't bite my head off, okay? Tyler Perry's Arcanami. I mentioned it before in a previous video. That I was talking about something different. The Lord brought it back to me, and I'm just following His lead in this. That if you watch the movie Arcanami and follow the story of Arcanami, what happened was you had this female, and the female was very controlling. But she was in love with this guy, and they talked about all the things in which she wanted to, or he wanted to do. He had this device, it was an invention, and he's like, if I can get this thing to work, blah, 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 blah. she had the money. She had inherited her parents' home, but she was still working. She carried their relationship for the next 20 some odd years. Due to an injury that she had, she could not bear children. So they had no kids together. Kind of reminds me of the story of David and, was it Rachel? Because I believe it was Rachel that laughed at David when he danced his clothes off, and the Lord declared that day that she was to carry no kids. Moving on. But in the movie, for 25 years he was tinkering on this assignment, tinkering on this invention, tinkering, couldn't get the thing to work. And she was getting tired of it. And something happened to create the illusion that he was cheating on her with the woman in which she caught him with 25 years before, that caused her to have the incident that made her break her pelvic bone and destroy her uterus. That woman, who actually was his ordained spouse, and you could tell by the way, if you watch the film, that she was his bridge. When the wife kicked him out and he had nowhere to go, he was staying in a homeless shelter, she had the job. She had the house. She had everything he needed. She supported him the way that he had always wanted the wife to support him. Now, the wife had, she gave him shelter, she gave him all this, but she was ornery about the fact that he ain't never had a job, and her sisters and siblings were always talking about him. But this woman had been like, look, I'm working at this company, let me help you out. She ended up introducing him to the people at the company she worked for and got him a pitch meeting. They talked about the device in which he had, and when they did, he ended up getting a preliminary estimate of what that thing would cost. That was a partial estimate of part of $1 million. That advance was able to set him up to be able to clear all his debts. He even gave his ex-wife money from part of that settlement money. But he hadn't gotten the full settlement yet. When he got the full settlement, he now got with the woman that he was, was his bridge, who carried him through that season when he had nothing, when he was in the homeless shelter, because what the Lord was doing was breaking down everything in his previous lifestyle, everything in relation to that other woman that he had been with that was not the woman that he was supposed to be with. Then put him in a homeless shelter, and she took him out, the one that he was supposed to be with. She was the bridge. She kept him in her home. She supported him through the process of which he getting all the paperwork and everything settled for the invention the way that it needed to be put together. They came together. He got the apartment. He got a condo behind that money that he got. When the full settlement came in, he bought her an engagement ring. He bought the boat that he had talked to the first wife about. They had planned a wedding, and she got pregnant. Some of y'all are going to be the bridge. These men may not have anything when you meet them, but that's because they about to hit it. You might be the one that may be the one to introduce them to the thing that's necessary for them to shift into the financial stability that is going to make them multimillionaires or billionaires by a conversation that they have with you. But some of them may not be there yet. It's another young woman that I follow. I've seen like maybe 5 or 6 of her videos, and she talks about how she's the one that's financially stable, but the guy in which she's the Lord's telling her that she's going to marry is not. She already has a business. She already has this. She has her ministry. She has all this stuff that she's working on. But this guy doesn't have all that. But the Lord's telling her to marry him more than likely because he's about to get it. Because when he comes into alignment with her, everything's going to shift. Now, when it comes down to that minister I was telling you about, when she married her husband, he didn't have any money. Right now, they have 2 properties, a boat. They go on private jet places. Now, I don't know whether that's because ministers send for them. And yeah, they got 2 studios, 2 in 2 different states. So yeah, they wasn't popping at the beginning, but they gathered and accumulated wealth together in the past 7 years of their marriage. Sometimes she be doing ministry broadcasts directly from the boat. It was like, oh, I'm on the boat this weekend. She posted on her Facebook page a couple months back her walking to get on the jet and talking about the prosperity of the Lord. Some of these men are going to need for you to be their bridging system in order for them to get to the financial stability necessary for them to support you. It's not that they don't have it. They've got the intellect. I've told you guys this before. My coach used to always say this. You take a woman with vision and a man that knows how to do the work, and you got 2 dangerous people, because she got the vision and he's got the ability to make it happen. Some of y'all have the vision, and some of y'all just might have a little bit more stability because the Lord has already dealt with you and he's already set you up. He's just got to get them to a place where he can show them, he can set them up the same way, but he's going to use you as the bridge. So I only got a few minutes, and I'm going to use this time to give you the Aladdin definition. Why am I using Aladdin? Aladdin is the Disney film that gives you pretty much a male version of what Cinderella was. Aladdin was a poor man that had a history. And if you think about it, Joseph, he came from a generation of something that wasn't all that great. And even if you look at it, Joseph's father, Jacob, was a thief, a liar, and so on and so forth. And that's the same case that happened with Jacob. Jacob stole Esau's stuff and all that kind of stuff, if you remember correctly, right? Aladdin ended up meeting Princess Jasmine, who was the princess to the throne of Agrabah. She was the one that carried the wealth. He was the one that was interested in her. He did not inherit his wealth until he married Princess Jasmine in the 3rd film. They rushed it in the live action version. But he did not inherit his wealth until he married her. Joseph did not inherit his wealth and be able to realign the family lineage until after he married his wife and took the I keep calling it emperorship. I keep forgetting what it is. But yeah, he was able to then redistribute the wealth, connect back to his family, get that in alignment, and restabilize them from the lost wealth that was taken from them. in that time frame, or shall I say from him, so that the lineage could be continued. Because remember, they were going through a famine when the family came back to where he was when he had the money. So the wealth had what? Been transferred. We're in the middle of a supernatural wealth transfer as we speak. So what's happening is there's being a transfer. And some of these men, just like in the movie Arkanami, they're at the brink. They may look like they ain't got nothing right now, but sometimes looks can be deceiving. They may look like they have nothing, but the bridge that you're going to be is going to shift them into all the wealth that they're going to get. They're going to be able to get double back for whatever it was they lost. Remember Job? For what he did in that time frame, he lost everything that he had from his past, and he ended up gaining the wife, the kids, the cattle, all of this double back for everything that he lost. This is a season where God is giving back double. But some of y'all women are going to have to be big little women and bridge the gap for your spouse, because he's about to come into it, but he's not going to come into it until he marries you. God's got to continue to finish the pruning process with him while he's with you as y'all come together. And then he's going to release to both of y'all an inheritance. And I've been feeling that on my God ordained spouse. The amount that he has right now is crumbs in compared to what the Lord wants to give him in the coming years. Because God already gave me a financial amount, and I'm like, oh, okay. So be prepared. The Lord is preparing to bless these men, but it's almost like we are the little door that looks like, or he may look like the little door where you're like, I don't know if I want him because he don't look like he got no money. It's like, no, you are the bridge to get him to it. Be the bridge. So this is Taj McCameron for Love, Faith, Peace, and Blessings Ministries. Until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings. Bye-bye.